They were 5 friends driving home after a basketball game. A short trip through quiet California roads. But somewhere along that cold February night, they vanished. No crash, no struggle, no goodbye. Just 5 men who drove into the dark and never came back. Weeks later, their car was found, perfectly fine, full of gas, parked in the middle of nowhere. Then when spring thawed the snow, the mountain began to give them back one by one. This is the story of the Yuba County Five, a mystery so strange and unsettling that it would be called America's Dyatlov Pass. It began on the night of February 24th, 1978. Northern California was calm, blanketed in cold. 5 young men, close friends, climbed into a turquoise 1969 Mercury Montego and headed for Chico. An hour away, they were part of a special needs basketball team called the Gateway Gators. The trip wasn't supposed to take long, just a quick night out before their own tournament the next morning. Each of them was different, yet together they were like brothers. Ted Weiher was 32, gentle and soft-spoken, the kind of man who would go out of his way to help a stranger. Friends called him the teddy bear. Jack Madruga, the driver, was quiet and serious. He loved his mother deeply, never missed church, and took pride in his clean blue car. He hated back roads, always stayed on the main highways. Bill Sterling was the group's heart, a man of faith who encouraged everyone to see the good in the world. Then there was Jackie Hewitt, only 24, sweet-natured and trusting, with a childlike innocence that made everyone protective of him. And finally, Gary Mathias, 25, an Army veteran rebuilding his life after struggling with schizophrenia. He was doing well, stable, on medication, and close with the others. Together, they were planning for the game that could take them to the state championship. They'd laid out their uniforms, packed snacks, and talked about the excitement of winning. But before that, they wanted to watch another team play, the UC Davis-Chico State game. It was supposed to be a fun, simple evening. After the game ended around 10 p.m., they stopped at a convenience store. The clerk remembered them clearly. Cheerful, laughing, buying pies, milk, and soft drinks. The kind of late-night comfort food you buy when the night still feels young. It was the last confirmed sighting of them alive. Sometime after that stop, the road home disappeared behind them. Instead of heading south toward Marysville, they went east up into the Sierra Nevada mountains. The paved highway turned to gravel. The lights of the valley vanished. What pulled them that way, no one knows. By morning, none of them had come home. Their parents called each other, then the police. These were men who lived by routine. They wouldn't disappear on purpose. 2 days later, searchers found the car. It was sitting alone on a snow-covered logging road, 70 miles from home, nearly halfway up a mountain. The doors were unlocked, the keys missing. The gas tank was half full. The tires were sunk slightly into the snow, but the car wasn't stuck. Anyone could have driven it out. Inside were candy wrappers, empty soda bottles, maps neatly folded in the glove box. There were no signs of panic, and yet there was something deeply wrong. The road they were on wasn't a shortcut, not even close. It led nowhere but deeper into the wilderness. Outside, footprints led away from the car, 5 sets at first, then fading as the snow grew deeper. They vanished into the white silence. Search teams combed the area for days, helicopters, dogs, volunteers. The only thing they found was more snow. The mountain kept it secret. Then, months later, the thaw began, and with it came answers, the kind that only deepened the horror. In early June, a forest ranger discovered a deserted trailer almost 20 miles from where the car had been found. Its window was broken. Inside lay the body of Ted Weiher. He was wrapped carefully in sheets, as though someone had tucked him in. He hadn't died quickly. His beard had grown nearly 2 inches, suggesting he'd survived up to 2 months after vanishing. But he'd starved to death, surrounded by unopened cans of food. On the shelf nearby sat boxes of army rations, enough to keep all 5 men alive for weeks. Outside was a propane tank that could have heated the entire trailer. It had never been turned on. Someone had opened a few cans, eaten some, then stopped. The trailer door had been closed. From the inside, there were no footprints left in the melted snow. The discovery raised more questions than answers. Why had they gone there? How had they found the trailer at all? Miles through freezing terrain with no light, no gear, and no reason to be there. As searchers pushed deeper into the forest, they began to find the others. About 11 miles from the car on the mountain slope, they found Jack Madruga and Bill Sterling lying side by side. They had died from exposure, likely within days of their disappearance. A little farther away, in a ravine, they found Jackie Hewitt, what little was left of him, scattered by animals. And yet one man was still missing, Gary Mathias. Inside the trailer, they found his tennis shoes. He had been there at some point. He must have left, wearing Ted's heavier boots. But he was never seen again. No trace, no bones, no clothing. It was as if he'd walked off the face of the earth. Theories came quickly, and none of them fit. Some believed they simply took a wrong turn. But Jack Madruga hated back roads. Friends swore he would never have driven into the snow willingly. Others thought they'd been chased, that something or someone frightened them off the main road. A man named Joseph Jones, who had been stranded in his car near that same area, later claimed he saw a group of men and a woman with a baby walking along the road that night. He called out for help, but no one answered. Later, when his car was unstuck, he realized it had been close to where the Yuba car was found. But who was the woman, and why didn't they speak? Another theory pointed to Gary Mathias. Maybe he had a psychotic break, convinced the others they were in danger. Maybe they followed him into the mountains in confusion and fear. But the trailer told a different story. Ted was cared for. Someone had wrapped him, tried to keep him warm, opened food for him. That wasn't the act of a man gone mad. That was loyalty and love. Some whispered about something darker. Lights in the sky, strange noises, an unseen terror that made them flee without reason. The way the hikers of Russia's Dyatlov Pass had done decades earlier, running barefoot into the snow, as if from something unspeakable. 5 men here, 9 there, 2 different mountains, 2 different continents, but the same silence, the same inexplicable fear. By late summer, all but Gary had been found, and still, there were no answers. The families never recovered. Jack's mother stopped eating, convinced her son would walk through the door if she waited long enough. Ted's room was left untouched, his bed made, his things exactly as he left them. Gary's parents left the porch light on every night, in case he came home. He never did. The official cause of death was exposure, but that single word didn't explain anything. Not the direction they took, not the car left perfectly fine, not the food left untouched, not why 5 grown men, familiar with routine and reason, walked willingly into a frozen wilderness. Some say they panicked and fled into the night. That fear made them irrational. Others believe something guided them or lured them up that mountain. But the strangest part of all was that they didn't die together. They died one by one, each likely believing the others were still alive somewhere nearby. Each step into the dark, carrying a little more hope, a little more pain. 5 ordinary friends who stepped off the map and vanished into silence. And today, in the quiet parts of Plumas National Forest, people still speak of them in hushed tones. Hikers claim to hear voices calling for help when there's no one around. Laughter that stops the moment they listen. Footprints that appear and disappear in the snow. Maybe it's the wind. Maybe it's imagination. Or maybe it's something else. 5 lost souls still trying to find their way home. Because the mountain remembers. And it never gives everything back. If you're drawn to the mysterious, the chilling, and the unexplained, like, share, and subscribe. Hit the bell so you never miss any of our uploads. And until next time, stay curious.